Hey, Dad.
Hmm.
So we're just going to ask a few more questions.
Hmm.
Tell us where you went to elementary school and any specific memories from school or teachers.
Well, in the fifth grade, I had a teacher that I thought was very good, but a lot of others didn't. His name was Golden Jackman, and he, uh, well, strangely, he said that was very early, and he said there's things in science. He says that you just can't hardly believe. He says, well, he says there's enough energy in a piece of coal. He says to run the whole country. He says for years. I thought, man, that's yeah. He says it deals with nucleus, with energy from the nucleus of atoms. Well,
So
man,
did
that's
that pique your interest?
yeah, it did very much so. And it was so early for nobody didn't know this kind of stuff. I don't know how he came to know it, but he told us things that turned out to be true and was weird.
Hmm. Neat. How about any specific memories from elementary school?
Well, I'll finish out a little bit on Jackman. He felt like that we were going to be faced up with things about sex. So he went to work and told us all about the right ideas uh, on sex and on preventing us from experimentation and being right and proper. But other parents got the idea that he had no business doing that kind of stuff on sex. So they kind of brought pressure against him because of that, but I always appreciated it. Um, and he encouraged me quite a bit at the time that I needed it, and try to get the most that I could out of my studies. What time I had, I was pretty heavy involved in farm work and that, and only had a limited amount of time to do other things. I didn't do sports because I was, well, we were 7 miles out of Springville, and didn't have only just the one car, and I really didn't have a basis of doing anything that way, getting down into sports. And I was always kind of awkward, double jointed, or whatever you might want to call it, and I never was very good in any of the sports. Didn't play football, didn't play basketball, for Springville, where a lot of people, not so many in Maple, mostly Springville, did that. My, of course, good thing about growing up was my very best friend, whose name was Bob Holly, or Bobby Holly when he was young, and we always did things together. And Bob's dad appreciated Bob and I, because other kids Bob's age, were doing bad things. Oh, Paul Larson and Kenny Harmer and Dick Bills and all of those, were trying to promote things that were against the church and against morality and everything.
So while those guys were doing stuff that weren't so good,
Well,
you
we did
guys
things that Bob's dad really appreciated, and Dad did too. That we
did
had a
clean,
kind of
good,
a
clean fun.
had a kind of a relationship that was real close, Bob and I, and that was opposed to the kind of uh, stupidity of most of the kids Bob's age, and Bob was 1 year younger than I, but we
You
sure,
did stuff like swimming and
yeah, we would go down to the Park Rocher and Arrowhead and swim together and up the canyon. Bob had access to a 34 Ford. We'd go up Maple Canyon there, the canyon that you guys go up, and we'd enjoy hiking up onto the lake numerous times. A
cool.
lot of good fun times and clean, not bad things. We didn't do bad things.
Good. Were there any other favorite teachers? And if so, why? During your school years?
Not so much as Jackman was.
Okay. It's interesting because my favorite teacher was a sixth grade teacher.
Oh, well, sixth grade.
And I really don't remember very many other teachers, mostly Mr. Cook,
Yeah.
my sixth grade teacher. What about, besides that teacher, were there any other adults that had a particular influence on you for good or bad? Besides your dad.
Well, Dad, for sure.
But I mean, any other adults?
Uncle Will was very good man. He was a seminary teacher and principal, and we enjoyed going down to his place and doing some things. He had kids that were younger than me and kids that were older. He didn't have any that was my exact age. My cousin Clyde was my age. And
The one that passed away.
Yeah, he got killed on
The
a
horse.
horse.
Yeah, you told about that. What about, you mentioned that you didn't get involved in sports a lot.
No.
What about music or dance?
No, Dad didn't promote music and dance much.
Okay.
And I never did get into it.
All right. Okay. What about, let's see, any summer jobs that you recall growing up? What did you like or dislike
I just
about
had
them?
so dang much to do as it was that Dad assigned us to do on the large farm that we had, that I didn't have time for other stuff.
Other jobs?
Yeah, now, from my age, let's see, the 6 years before I went on my mission at age 20, so it'd
you
be
can lay down on my bed.
from my age 14, of course we're dealing beyond elementary now, from my age 14 to my age 20 when I went on my mission, every fall I would combine grain for people. Dad bought 3 different combines during that time, and Dad and I would go into people's places and combine their grain. Dad would make the deals as to whether we do it by the acre or by the bushel, and charge so much for combining out their grain crop. And
So then you got to keep part of that as your earnings?
my what?
You got to keep part of that wage for your earnings for what you did?
No. Dad would take that money, the combine money, and take these other forms of money and get them together, and then wait for the right deal. And one would come along, and the next thing you know, he was buying another
Combine.
40 acres or
Oh.
Another 20 acres. And
Did you ever resent that your labor, you weren't getting
no,
paid?
I didn't. Not at all.
All right. Well, now our next subject is professional and vocational. You've
Professional what?
Professional and vocational. You've pretty much covered what you did prior to your mission. So what jobs did you have following your mission? The various jobs and what you liked and disliked about them, and when and where.
Well, following my mission, I spent just one summer helping Dad on the new farm in Talmadge out in Duchesne County, because I left from Mapleton but came back to Duchesne because while I was on my mission, Dad sold out in Mapleton and bought in Talmadge. And I don't know all the reasons why, because I wasn't around. But I worked one summer, and then went down to BYU, and we very economically lived down there, and I went to finishing my college.
Okay, so during your college years, where did you have a job?
Have a gun?
Have a job?
Oh. No.
Okay.
I just went ahead and we'd make deals. Old Neil Whiting, he said, "Okay, I'll let you do it." He says, "Go in there and where I've picked the corn," and he says, "if you can find any ears that were picked, passed over, why," he said, "you go ahead and pick them and they'll be yours." So we had access to in our place we were living in Sproul, off campus, why we had access to a chest freezer, and we would pick all these ears of corn, and put them in the freezer and freeze them. And the same thing with tomatoes.
Oh, and then that's what you'd eat so that you could...
Yeah, we ate
Wow. Okay.
corn and tomatoes. That was our no cost to us, no cost to Dad for food. And
Okie dokie. What about after you got married, as far as what jobs did you hold prior to Hercules, and then talk about Hercules? Those were your
our
jobs.
First one job I got out of college was L.H. Butcher Company, where I acted as a chemical salesman for Butcher. Traveled around Intermountain area, mostly in Utah, and sold chemicals but Pete Peterson, Alma Peterson was my boss, and he and L.H. Butcher, I didn't know it at the time, but they weren't fair with me. Gave me very poor
compensation for your efforts.
Compensation for my sales work. Other people made more money than I did for selling the same amount of stuff. And so I was cheated.
So then at that point you got married to Mom, and
Yeah.
then what was your first job after you were married?
Well, that was the first.
Oh, that you were married. Okay. And that was your first job. And what's the next job that came along?
Well, by that time I'd got acquainted, and Pete Peterson introduced me to Bob Cotts and Rulin Birmingham
And was that
and High Summerhays.
Mom?
And High Summerhays.